We are going to move our discussions on causality forward. We have seen how it's expressed in a research question. We want to go on to see how we can translate them in the form of hypothesis and then move on from there. So the objective here, therefore, as you see, is to see how that process works. And then we are going to translate examples of hypotheses of questions into hypotheses. And the key point is to emphasize the second aspect of the objective, to think through causal hypothesis. Now, one of the points that I think you should never, or that should be ever present in your mind, is thinking, reflection. Yeah, because one of the things that you find in short supply is the capacity to reflect through questions and statements. Sometimes even to reflect through the literature that we have read. And because of that, we are unable to move very rapidly and we accept things that are unclear. We have seen what a research question is. We've seen what it is. It's an attempt to get an answer to the problem that we have identified. And we have also seen how we are to craft those questions and what we need to do to craft very precise, clear, and researchable questions. Now, a hypothesis is the answer to that question. So it's a statement that needs to be proved or disproved. And just as we have ways of crafting questions so that they will be precise and clear, we also have a way of crafting hypotheses. And the first thing you know about hypothesis, it is that it is an intelligent guess. It is an informed guess regarding what should happen given certain conditions. Now, we say educated or intelligent guess. You know, somebody was asking, after constructing all of these things, what if it turns out to be futile? A lot of resources would have been wasted. And I said it can't happen because you are not going to construct your hypothesis after taking a bottle of whiskey. If anything at all, you construct your hypothesis after drinking from the literature. So you will be very sober and you have a lot of ideas in your head. And you reflect through those ideas. And therefore, it takes some time to begin to write a good hypothesis. And there are certain features that you find that will constitute or make you write or make your hypothesis very clear, concise, and meaningful. Because that's actually the point. I was reviewing a write-up recently, and the gentleman was working on synergetic conditions that will enable the civilian joint task force to be very effective in working with the security forces in order to deal with the counter-terrorism situation in Nigeria. And he did all kinds of operations, including regression, and then at the end of the day, he reached some conclusions. And I looked at the paper again and again, and I saw that there was a difference between the conclusion he has given and the objective that he started with. And then on reflecting on it, I asked myself, what were you testing when you were doing regression and you were doing chi-square? And I state clearly that if he had had an hypothesis, then there will be no disconnect between the objective and the conclusions. Because the hypothesis would have evolved from the research questions, and it would have tested those hypotheses and derived conclusions. So what I'm saying in essence is that I then ask the question, how are we sure that the entire operation that he has carried out in that research is even necessary for the objectives to be achieved? So that's how important a hypothesis is, because you move from the research questions and you translate it into a hypothesis that you need to work. And hypotheses, of course, play a very vital role, as you see, from research, especially causal research. And there are certain elements. The first, of course, is that your hypothesis must be clear. It must be a very clear construct. You can't write a hypothesis and we are not sure what you are talking about. Now we'll go on to look at different ways of presenting hypothesis. One of the things you also try to ensure that is in your hypothesis is that the variables are clear. And we can see from your hypothesis the relationship between one variable and the other, and the connection between the variables. And the direction is also very clear. The direction between the variables are very clear. Now, if the hypothesis is disconnected from your research question or the problem of the research, then of course it becomes a problem. It means that even the function that hypothesis is supposed to do, it cannot do, because it's supposed to help establish the answer to the question. Now, if it is disconnected from your question, then it's not speaking, it can't be an answer, a possible answer to that question. Meanwhile, we say a hypothesis is an intelligent guess. It's supposed to answer to the research question. Now, if it is disconnected from that research question, now it looks very simple. You wonder, how can a hypothesis not speak to the research question? Now, we can take samples of proposal that we have seen. You'll find that it's actually one of the commonest things you encounter when you are dealing with research. Because that consistency appears easy, but in concrete terms, it is not. And we'll also see why it has to be, because there's a logic that drives what we do, and we'll come to that very soon. But sometimes we are not disciplined enough to focus on that connection. So we think we are supposed to write a hypothesis, then we write one. Now, from the hypothesis, you can determine whether your research question or the focus of your study is on causality or it is descriptive. We have tried to see that when we come to the research question. In other words, your research question cannot be causal and your hypothesis descriptive. And your research question cannot be descriptive and then you have a causal hypothesis. There must be consistency. In other words, you are perpetually reflecting on what your questions are and what your hypotheses are, and what is the connection between them. If it's causal, then there must be an independent variable and a dependent variable. It must express a cause-effect relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable. Now, when you look at the way we have approached those questions, you'll find that from each of those questions that we have described as causal, we can identify not only the causal factor but also the outcome factor, but much more than that, the connection between them. That is the causal mechanism. Now, do we need hypotheses for all research projects?
No, it's not all researches that lend themselves to hypotheses.
Why?
Because if the research is descriptive, you are dealing with only one concept. You are not trying to compare cause and effect or any either outcome and cause and outcome.
Is it possible to have a descriptive research with a hypothesis?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No.
Is it possible to have
A descriptive research with a hypothesis?
Yes.
yes?
I say no.
Yes.
Why do you say no?
I say no because a descriptive research is describing an event, just one event. It could be you, an individual, it could be a situation, it could be any, but it's dealing with only that. From what you have told us here, you said there must be a relationship and the relationship must be clear. So if you're looking at two items and then there's a hypothesis, but if it is one, there's no hypothesis.
I like your point, but I'll throw the question back at you.
Yes, sir.
Is the relationship between variables always causal? Can there be a relationship that is non-causal?
Yes. There can be influence.
The question, can there be a relationship that is non-causal?
Yes.
So does that make it possible to have a hypothesis that is non-causal?
Yeah, it's possible, but then the research is not
The
descriptive.
question you asked now is a little, I'm still trying to bite down into that. What does that mean?
Is it possible to have a relationship between two variables that is non-causal?
So in the case of a correlation
Is a correlational study a causal relationship?
No. No.
Now, is it possible to have a hypothesis for a correlational study?
Yes.
So does that tell us, therefore, that it is possible to have a non-causal hypothesis?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have come to that point.
Yeah, but it's not descriptive.
You see,
It's not descriptive.
what you are in fact saying is this, that between descriptive and causal, there is a middle ground. We-
I'm also.
But it's a very important question.
Yes.
Now, is a correlation a description or not? You know, you are taking us back to elementary statistics. So when we say descriptive statistics or inferential statistics, what do we include and what do we exclude?
You must also remember that we were doing research questions, and then we said if there is a relationship, then automatically that question is not causal.
You said, excuse, you said,
In discussing research questions about 30 minutes ago, where the emphasis was if there is a relationship, causal is not a relationship. So once we talk of that relationship, then it becomes descriptive. It automatically becomes.
you want to say something?
Yes, sir. Sir, before now, my belief with hypothesis and research question is that when you're having an experimental research, that's when you have
Hypothesis.
what we call hypothesis. When you're having non-experimental, you have research question. That has been my own understanding.
And also I've heard and perhaps believed that one could split a research work into two.
Okay.
A part to deal with description or descriptive studies, and that one research questions will take care of it. Then there will be this either correlational or causational. The second part will be taken care of by hypothesis. But what you're saying now is that they should speak to one another. So I'm
He's
confused.
saying they should speak to the research question.
Yes.
So the
that's
research question
where-
1 could be descriptive, and then
that's
question
where-
2 can
because
be.
I have that challenge.
Don't forget where we are. Hypothesis. Now you are compartmentalizing your research such that there is the session that is descriptive,
That is causal.
and there's another one that is causal, and you give the impression that they are separate even within the research. They are independent studies.
That's the mentality I
So
Let's come to you.
we are coming from different backgrounds,
Absolutely.
and for us, I also I want to ask you this question so that you put it together. Political science, to be precise, there are some research. It's not every causal research that you use hypothesis.
It's not every causal research that you use hypothesis.
Yes, that's what I came in here with, because there is what we call prepositions.
Yes.
Also similar to hypothesis.
Yes.
And so you either use a preposition or you use hypothesis, because they look at similar. The only difference is the mode of analysis.
But can I say something?
Yeah.
We all came here from backgrounds,
Yes.
schools of thoughts, domains that have shaped what we are today. I think you defined what an hypothesis is. A tentative answer to.
Yes.
Can you provide a tentative answer to a descriptive research question?
Yes.
Can you provide a tentative answer to a causal research
Yes.
question? So what is the big
Do you think,
What I am saying is that we come here with a lot of prior knowledge.
Yes.
Can we allow ourselves to relearn, to unlearn, and relearn, so that we are able to do?
You want to say something? Yes. I'll come back to that.
All these debates
Yes.
about whether if you have a hypothesis, you have to use quantitative means to evaluate and to test and so on and so forth. And when we are doing a qualitative research, you do not apply instruments of statistics and so on, and therefore you are not testing. I think that is the argument that he's trying to build up.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. You want to make one more comment?
What I actually want to say is, for the fact that hypothesis is a guess question, what I came here with is that whether intelligent guess, whatever research you are doing, there must be a guess. There must be a guess question. You must, whatever you want to do, whether you wrote it down or you have it in your head. Yeah, I think that's and it may have different meaning, but there must be a guess question you are trying.
The simple question that Susan has put before us is that if an educated guess to your research question looks like what you call preposition, would you accept that that is a hypothesis?
Yes.
Thank you. That's what it is.
But
Now,
I don't have a table, a statistical way.
you don't have to. You don't have to have a table. You don't have to have a statistical analysis of it. What is important is that you have a tentative guess about what you are looking for. Now, you also know that some hypotheses have to be modified as you proceed with your research work, because the first statement of it may not be clear enough. You understand? So when you look at all of those things, don't have a static disposition to them. Because you also, as you know, we refine. As we read the literature, we refine. As we organize the research activities and carry them, we refine. You understand? Because we have to be as clear and as precise as possible. That's what makes hypotheses very important. Now, because they connect one variable to another. They tell us how they relate. Because that's what we're actually trying to find out when we proceed in any form of inquiry. And we need to have that. Really, if you don't have a hypothesis, sometimes your research can be unwieldy. And that's when you fall into the error of not seeing the logic that runs through the entire research process. Always remember that we said the research process is typically supposed to be seamless. And so the research question connects with the hypothesis, and the hypothesis drives the research question in such a way that the method will enable you to fulfill the answer to those questions. Now, the hypothesis itself can be a source of inspiration towards finding out what is it that you need to investigate. And so you find that by trying to craft questions and find answers to those questions through engaging the literature, that's how you begin to develop your hypothesis. So when we say it's an educated or intelligent guess, that's exactly what we mean, that you have to focus on some kind of literature. So when you read the literature, you need to reflect on what you have read. And I like to emphasize that because from experience, people are driven by what they have read into all kinds of direction. Rather than deploying literature to drive a question, to define a hypothesis, you are just picking here and there, picking here and there, and some people will tell you, the more I read, the more confused I am. But what is actually required is that when you read, you sit back and reflect. And in reflecting, you also try to draw connection among the different research work that you are reading. Because it is through reflection that you are able to do that. And then, therefore, your hypothesis now evolve from what you are thinking, what you are imagining, what you think should be explained. And once you begin to move in that direction of identifying something, in other words, that needs to be explained, and you have crafted a question that seeks an answer, then of course the hypothesis comes to you naturally. So when we talk about critical imagination, that's when you begin to deploy them. So when you read literature, what we expect is that you go beyond it. And the only way you can go beyond it is by reflection and by identifying even gaps that has been expressly stated. Sometimes some people read through literature, even the author is saying these are areas that have not been investigated. They don't see that the author is telling them that these are the areas where there are gaps. And so you come to us with a proposal, and then we say, what is the gap that you are going in literature that you want to address? And you leave the literature and you talk about a gap outside the literature. And you think, but it's a problem that has persisted in our society. And somebody asks you, but has somebody not written about it? Are you going to reinvent the wheel? Meanwhile, even the various literature that you have read, recognize the limit of what they have investigated, and in fact express in very clear terms areas that you can explore. Now, because your hypothesis is meant to advance knowledge, that's why you really have to do that. And in order to do that, of course, you are trying to explain something that has not been sufficiently explained, that has been identified as needing explanation, or that you have found by reflection that you need to address. So in other words, when you are trying to craft a hypothesis, you are trying to establish a new S that has not been addressed, and you are trying to see how it connects with a Y, and you are trying to see how to explain the connection between X and Y by means of Z. In other words, you are not just concerned about the connection between the independent variable and the dependent variable. You want to explore how that connection happens, how it is expressed. And the best way to do that is to put it in the form of a hypothesis. Now, how do you, we have said literature. One of the things you find in literature is this, that there are several hypotheses concerning any issue. So many hypotheses. Some agree, some disagree. Sometimes I think that one of the easiest ways to identify a gap beyond that's expressly stated by an author is to look at where there are competing hypotheses over an issue. Sometimes there are multiple perspectives. Sometimes there are two dominant perspectives. One of the very common hypotheses that remain competing in political science, for instance, is which of the forms of government is better for economic development? Is it a dictatorship or a democracy? It has been there forever. Some will say democracies are better. The question is how? The question is how. So once there are competing hypotheses, that's actually an opportunity for you to begin to think about hypotheses. You may not restate it exactly the way the broad debate has been stated. You can look at some elements within the broader debate and tease them out for investigation. And that is usually how you proceed in trying to develop your own hypothesis. Now, let's look at this example by Casa. Now, there's a research that looked at centralized banking policy, how centralized banking policy leads to better domestic resource mobilization in Ethiopia. How centralized banking policy. So they decided on their own to look at how diversified banking policy leads to better domestic resource mobilization in Ethiopia. Now you are beginning to see the question of scope, and you also see the question of time, you also see the question of space appearing as sources of hypothesis development. So what it means is that when you reflect on the literature, you must imagine possibilities. So if somebody has done centralized banking policy, ask yourself, has somebody done diversified public banking policy? Now, if they have done it in Ethiopia, have they done it in Kenya? Is there something about Kenya that makes it important to also look at both? Now you can ask, if there was originally a centralized banking policy somewhere, and then over time they've changed from a centralized banking policy system into a diversified banking policy system, and you ask yourself, which one is better? What did they actually record any significant difference? Meanwhile, what you have read is just about Ethiopia and Ethiopia. but you are beginning to think beyond Ethiopia into Kenya. You are just also looking not just in terms of space, you are also looking across time. What has changed? What opportunity exists within that context? So you can see that engaging the literature is a huge mine for developing hypotheses. But what you need to look at is to look at those competing hypotheses that are available. But you can't avoid critical thinking and critical imagination.
Sorry.
Yes.
Linking our discussions on hypothesis with what we have done before.
Yes.
Concept, problem, and all that. Now, is it possible for these two hypotheses to be coming from the same problem, the same concept, the same question?
Absolutely. In fact, you can start a research and then you have a huge question, central question, and then you realize that when you break it down into specifics, they are quite a lot. And then instead of taking all of them at once, you decide, let me look at this first. So that's why you have some research projects, they go 5 years, 10 years, because you are investigating different dimensions of the same thing over time. And you find it's a very common project. It's a very common project. You have projects that run for several years, because not only that there are different aspects, sometimes you also want to look at it across space. To say, let's look at it across African countries. This year we look at, next year we look at, then you then synthesize. It's always common. Then sometimes there's a project on social protection. We look at the financial space for it. We look at the actors involved in taking that decision or spreading or diffusing those ideas. There are so many dimensions of a thing that you can look at. But when you engage a research project, you need to think very carefully about all of these things. So if you have a research, even when you do PhD, your supervisor will tell you, yeah, this looks very interesting, but do you know that there's life after PhD? Yeah, because he says, you want to take everything on. In fact, your PhD enables you to specialize in one area that ultimately will occupy you probably for the rest of your career. So he says, take this part of it. If you are still interested when you are done, you can go on. And sometimes we say, if you do a PhD, you can have multiple research papers from them. So that's the kind of thing you are talking about.
I understand perfectly.
Yes.
I know that in a study you can have more than one hypothesis.
Yes.
And in fact, you can break the continuum over.
Yeah, over.
My question came from the fact that these two hypotheses are about opposites. So, can you have that?
They are contraries.
A simple piece of work. Yeah, they seem to be like.
No, you can. In fact, that's what I described when I was talking about the Kenyan case. I said, take for instance, if the Kenyan government has practiced centralized banking for a time, and then change into a diversified banking policy, you can, in fact, compare. You can do a comparison. Yeah.
Can I just, do you know what theirs refer to? No. Let me, do you know what it refers to? That is
okay.
From. I don't know where you brought that.
Okay.
Because that's theirs and mine have a.
Yes.
So theirs is the competing hypothesis.
Yeah, from literature.
Okay, so you're saying Remy in 2015 was looking at centralized banking.
Yes.
And this is what he found out. You, as Dio, in 2017,
decides, yeah.
you seem to disagree with the with some of the assumptions that Remy made in 2015. Now you want to look at diversified instead of centralized. So that is where your niche is. So that theirs is the, and your question is whether you can have both centralized and diversified in a single piece of work. So what will inform that decision, if I may ask?
Yeah.
Because from the very beginning in the morning, we are saying that the decisions that we make for our research and what we want to do have background information around them. There are things that inform us on what we want to research on. What would be your decision point that I want to look at both centralized and diversified? That is where the question is. Is it that the background literature that you have read doesn't look at both, and so you want to study them at a more? Or what is it that is informing you?
Let's say that in your literature search, up to this point of forming hypothesis, you found both. You found studies that looked at this side, you found studies that looked at this side. Now, this is your homework. Could you be looking at two extremes in answering a single piece of question?
It's possible. I think, and Remy will tell you it is possible. And that's exactly what you
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Because you might want to compare. Let's see what is happening in Kenya with a centralized system.
Yes.
Let us see what is happening in Nigeria with a diversified system. And then you compare the findings. So it depends on the decisions that you make as a researcher.
Because, yeah, okay. Harun.
Maybe I'm dragging you back, but I think Gary writes very well. He's trying to look at, there are ways of stating hypotheses,
yes,
either in the positive or in the negative.
Absolutely.
So I think that is where he's trying to get, that he can state it either positively or negatively in one work, that in one research.
Which is always the case.
When you say the null,
but now the two in one work.
Yes,
based on your
But
interest.
I understand.
but they are also trying to talk of comparison, they are trying to say you can use it and so on.
Oh, okay. Are you talking in terms of alternative hypothesis? I don't think that's what he's saying. No, that's not what he's saying.
I'm not talking in terms of
What he's saying, sorry, he said that can we state those two hypotheses in the research book?
That's stating null and alternative.
No, that's not what he's saying. It was more concerned with issues rather than yes.
Two valid hypotheses.
That's what I'm saying. That
Can you study? No.
I can state both the two hypotheses. Yes, they study.
Okay, so all right.
Sorry, sir. Even
Please.
the third question now. Sorry, the third question cannot be comparison. That of that centralized and diversified, can compare them. Can you that third hypothesis?
I don't understand. Now you have complicated the matter, and which is good. Which for me, which is good. What I think he is satisfied with. Yes, but we can hear those issues. Yes.
Yeah, if I try to understand his question,
yes,
he's bringing complexity in the hypothesis. Earlier we looked at good hypothesis, and we said it must be clear.
Yes.
And
concise. Yeah.
It must show the link of one independent variable to the dependent variable. So when you talk about decentralized and diversified at the same time, then you're bringing two variables causing something. So it is not clear in that way, and it's not specific.
Well, let me emphasize one point, that there's always a logic behind any hypothesis that we make. Now, we are not suggesting that the independent variable must be a single variable. That's not the point that we are making, because it's possible to have more than. Well, that's why we talk about conjectural and Yeah, we talk about those kind of relationship. Now, but the point which I think should be emphasized here is that, that's what we are going to use to conclude. There's always a logic in our analysis that makes it possible to move from our research problem to our research questions to our hypothesis to our finding to our conclusion. So nothing is done arbitrarily. It's just, and I think that's what I want to emphasize, that you won't say, I feel like. Yeah. It's not what you feel. It must, thank you. There must be a justification for whatever you do. And I think that's why, because the whole essence about your hypothesis is that you want to advance knowledge. So it's not that, okay, they've done it, I just feel like maybe I should do some experiment by combining. There must be always some kind of justification for, and that's why we didn't just say it's a possible answer to your question. We say it's an educated and intelligent guess. And then you want to also prove, and you don't write something that you cannot subject to that kind of assessment, rigorous assessment as you proceed. So it's not evil. Now what we are talking about is, how do you use your literature to begin to tease out hypotheses for yourself from looking at what other people have done and what is possible for you to do. So there's a logic behind it. And that's why if you come and say you have a research question, you have a hypothesis, we are not just going to say thank you for giving us hypothesis. We haven't seen hypothesis we've been looking for. We are going to question you. Yes, we are going to ask you questions in the light of what we also know about the literature. And that's why we are a community of scholars. Always remember that you must be speaking to somebody, and you are in fact speaking to those who should know. And even within the policy process, if you are doing a policy-oriented, policy-engaged process, you are not just going to sleep and wake up and say, this is how it appeared to me in my dream. That's why sometimes you go beyond literature in that particular case and engage. Because we say you have to engage those who are likely to use the product. They will enable you refine your questions. So when you are talking to them, you also have literature behind you. You know, some people, they are doing research, they already have us all the questions. Yet they don't know what is in the literature. And people are asking, this thing you are writing will not sell. Oh. Did you look at so and so? And then when we also talk about currency, that's the kind of things we are talking about. So it's not just that you write whatever you write. We are saying there are specific sources of hypothesis. There are specific sources of hypothesis. Just as there are sources of question, isn't it? Now, I talked about, that was in Ethiopia. What has happened in Kenya? And we are saying, what has happened over a period of time? I said, it's possible for the same issue to have undergone certain specific changes over time. Remember, we used to have centralized economies. Everything was centralized. They will tell you, electricity, airline, certain basic things are the commanding heads of the economy. Only the government should provide it. Now, some said it is no longer workable. Some have left it many years ago. Some are still grappling with it. So these are mines where you can draw hypotheses. So what has happened before? How has it been investigated? Now, he said Trump just woke up one day and said he's going to introduce tariffs. And then they said, in so many years, they've never seen two global powers fighting each other with tariffs and trade for many years. They say it's a new area. People are interested in finding out what will be the consequences for the global economy. You pay attention to things like that, changes that are occurring over time, changes that are novel. Because when we're talking about research questions, he said, is it convincing? Is it relevant? Is anybody interested in what you are talking about? Does this strike me? Because when you are constructing all of those things, you have to pay attention to those who are going to encounter what you are investigating. It's extremely very important. And these are opportunities to enable you craft strong, powerful, exciting hypotheses. Do you look beyond? Now, these days we even talk of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research. What kind of possibility? And you see, they are all connected again to critical imagination. So you are deriving research questions, you are writing objectives. You need to bring your faculties of imagination to bear in all of those things. And that's why research process is a creative process. It is a creative process. And you must go beyond your comfort zone. If you want something novel, if you want something exciting, you want something new, you must go beyond disciplines. You must go beyond your discipline. Any question on that? I think we are moving on.
Hello Africa, this is Event Update on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. Event Update brings you information about upcoming higher education events happening in Africa, and it is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. I am Isabella Totahinakwa.
Je m'appelle Alexandre Papa Johnson.
Accra Institute of Technology is a top-notch private university in Ghana. The university offers world-class bachelor's, master's, and PhD degree programs.
IT and management is one of the good courses I think we should offer these days, because I realized that on my years of experience on the IT field, I realized that IT guys find it very difficult to cope with the management aspect. And AIT is giving us the opportunity to do IT and management. We dive into what? Programming. I did HR, I did principal management, and all this one is giving me the opportunity to be able to communicate with my manager. So when we are talking about IT, I know that I'm talking about something technical, and I can also talk about management, which is also another dimension of corporate institution. So with all this, I think AIT is giving us a very nice opportunity.
We are AIT, the University of the Future.
The Association of African Universities, AAU, is calling for academics to enroll for its maiden faculty online modular training formed from June to August 2020. This online teaching modular training is targeted at all academics in African universities to help them enhance their skills in online and remote teaching and learning. The following are some modules for the training: how to manage your online presence, how to teach online, how to welcome students to the online environment, how to organize your online course, planning and facilitating online discussion, synchronous and asynchronous tools in online teaching and learning, presentation tools in the virtual environment, social bookmarking tools, screencasting tools, and online assessment tools, among others. Kindly visit the link on your screen to register. And for more information, contact the webinar officer kasam@aau.org or call +233 243 298464. You can also visit www.aau.org.
L'Association des universités africaines AUA appelle les universitaires à s'inscrire à sa première formation modulaire en ligne de juin à août 2020. Cette formation modulaire d'enseignement en ligne s'adresse à tous les universitaires des universités africaines pour les aider à améliorer leurs compétences dans l'enseignement et l'apprentissage en ligne et à distance. Quelques modules pour la formation sont comment gérer votre présence en ligne, comment enseigner en ligne, comment accueillir les étudiants dans l'environnement en ligne, comment organiser votre cours en ligne, la planification et l'animation de discussions en ligne, les outils synchrones et asynchrones dans l'enseignement et l'apprentissage en ligne, les outils de présentation dans l'environnement virtuel, les outils de bookmarking social, les outils de moulage d'écran et les outils d'évaluation en ligne entre autres. Veuillez visiter le lien qui s'affiche sur votre écran pour vous inscrire. Et pour plus d'informations, contactez le responsable du webinaire, M. Kwesi Sam, via kassam@aau.org ou appelez le plus 233 243 29 84 64. Vous pouvez également visiter www.aau.org.
The Center for Research Implications and Practice, a consultancy firm, is calling for abstracts for the first global conference on online education on the theme Best Practices of Online Education, to be held on 10th to 12th August 2020 virtually. With the COVID-19, most educational and training institutions were caught unprepared to move to online education. This conference seeks to bring together many educators and trainers who wish to interact with others around the world and share about online education, and also bring online education experts and enthusiasts together to generate synergy that will help consolidate online education globally. Expected participants are college and university professors, lecturers and administrators, K-12 educators, education technologists, online education researchers, online program leaders, online curriculum specialists, online trainers, and anyone involved in supporting online learners and educators to submit abstracts and or plan to attend this unique international conference. Interested participants are to register before 31st July 2020. For more information, kindly call +254 72 810 8022 or email info@centerrep.org.
Center for Research Implications and Practice, une société de conseil, lance un appel à communication pour la première conférence mondiale sur l'éducation en ligne sur le thème « Meilleures pratiques de l'éducation en ligne » qui se tiendra du 10 au 12 août 2020. Avec le Covid-19, la plupart des établissements d'enseignement et de formation n'étaient pas préparés à passer à l'enseignement en ligne. Cette conférence vise donc à rassembler de nombreux éducateurs et formateurs qui souhaitent interagir avec d'autres dans le monde pour apprendre et partager sur l'éducation en ligne, et aussi apporter des experts et des passionnés de l'éducation en ligne réunis pour générer une synergie qui contribuera à consolider l'éducation en ligne à l'échelle mondiale. Les participants attendus sont des professeurs de collège et d'université, des conférenciers et des administrateurs, des enseignants de la maternelle, des technologues de l'éducation, des chercheurs en éducation en ligne, des responsables de programmes en ligne, des spécialistes du curriculum en ligne, des formateurs en ligne et toute personne impliquée dans l'aide aux apprenants et aux enseignants en ligne pour soumettre des résumés, et ou toute personne ayant l'intention d'assister à cette conférence internationale unique. Les participants intéressés doivent s'inscrire avant le 31 juillet 2020. Et pour plus d'informations, veuillez appeler le +254 72 81 08 022 ou envoyer un email à info@centerrep.org.
The African Network for Economics of Learning, Innovation and Competence Building Systems is looking for suitable PhD students from universities in African countries to participate in the Africa Leaks PhD Visiting Fellowship Program 2021 batch, focused on innovation and development at the Department of Political Science, Faculty of Social Science, Aalborg University, Denmark. This fellowship program and scholarship seeks to help African PhD students working in the field of innovation and development to strengthen their academic research qualifications, improve quality of their dissertation, and prepare for a career in innovation and development, either within academia or outside. To be eligible, applicants must be enrolled as a PhD student at a university in Africa, have completed their first year of studies by December 2020, have a background within economics, sociology, political science, science and technology policy, geography, history or development studies. Applicants may also work within the STEM subjects or even manufacturing, but from a social science perspective. Applicants must possess adequate skills in English, be working actively on a subject relevant to the field of innovation and development as defined above. Submit a brief application explaining own background, motivation for applying, and expected outcomes of participation in the Africa League's PhD Visiting Fellowship Program. Interested applicants should apply to visitingphd@africaleagues.org with a brief outline of your current PhD project, including training plan, CV, letter of support from the main PhD supervisor confirming that the PhD student will have completed his or her upgrade probation by end January 2021. Letter of support from the university administration at the university where the PhD student is enrolled, copies of academic certificates, one writing sample from current PhD program before 31st July 2020. For more information, please email visitingphd@africaleagues.org or secretariat@africaleagues.org. You can also call +254 710 60 7210.
Le réseau africain pour l'économie de l'apprentissage, de l'innovation et des systèmes de renforcement des compétences et les résultats attendus de la participation au programme de bourse de visite Africa Leagues PhD. Postulez à visitephd@africaleagues.org avec un bref aperçu de son projet de doctorat actuel, y compris le plan de formation maximum 5 pages, CV, lettre de soutien du directeur de thèse confirmant que le doctorant aura terminé sa mise à niveau probation d'ici fin janvier 2021. Lettre de soutien de l'administration universitaire de l'université où le doctorant est inscrit, copie de certificat académique, un échantillon d'écriture, article ou chapitre du programme de doctorat en cours avant le 31 juillet 2020. Pour plus d'informations, veuillez envoyer un email à visitephd@africaleagues.org ou au secrétariat@africaleagues.org. Vous pouvez également appeler le +254 71 06 07 210.
That is all for this episode. Events Update is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. Please follow us on our social media platforms at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, AAU TV_African Universities on Twitter, and AAU TV Official on Instagram. You can also visit our dedicated website at tv.aau.org for more of events updates. Our makeup is done by L Nails and Makeup. I am Isabella Tetahinakwa.
Je m'appelle Alexandra Mpaba Johnson.
Hi there, and welcome to African Student Voice on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. African Student Voice is brought to you by the Association of African Universities, Accra, Ghana, and I'm your host, Ajiban Otredakum. Today's show will be very special because we'll be showing you a lot of things that perhaps you may not known about, but it is really happening in the African continent, and we've left them to be. Today we're discussing how can we project the young African inventors? How can we project them? The truth is that we have so many people out there, young Africans, who are developing things, innovative gadgets out there, who have not gotten the attention of the private sector, neither even government, and they are just wearing off with their talent. As we live in Africa and put our hands all by ourselves and say we have nothing to show for the world. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, I'll let you know my guest for today and also what we have for you to see the skill in Africa. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I was really good at memorizing and all of that, but I saw that it didn't really help me in real life. So this is the right place for me because these are the skills that I want to get in this age that I'm currently at.
I feel lucky because I always wanted to travel around the world,
but that seems to be sometimes hard, and this place brings the majority, like the totality of the continent in here, and I feel lucky for that because it brings you more opportunity, more insight, more culture, more understanding for other people.
AAU Rwanda has definitely been community, just learning to be there for other people and allow people to be there for you even when it seems tough. That has been a big lesson for me, and I feel that this is the one thing that I would definitely love to carry home. To always not judge people and just be open for people, be around, be there, simply.
Yeah, I feel like AAU was the school destined for me. I've always known about the state of the continent from a very theoretical standpoint, and I feel like AAU was the school that was going to offer a unique perspective and unique understanding of the state of the continent as it is now.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, African Student Voice on AAU TV. I'm your host, Ajibola Chidako. With me in the studio today, I have Pamela Aboajua-Mante, SRC President for the Ghana Technology University College. And I have with me Richmond Ejare, an MBA student at the University of Professional Studies School of Graduate Studies. Nice people, you are welcome to African Student Voices.
Thank you very much.
Fair. I must say that this is the only show in Africa that's really passionate about talking about matters transforming the African continent's youth to be better leaders for the future. And I couldn't get anybody else to speak to this matter than you, because you've been it and you understand the skill we have in Africa. We are talking about how can we project the unsung African inventors, the young African inventors, who are really making things happen in their small communities in Africa, but are not known on the world map and are not being supported or are not even given that formal education, because if they are just applying their informal skills. So let's begin with the question: do African youths have that talent or that tech skills or not? Do we, Pamela? Do we have the skills?
Yeah. Thank you. And I would say Africa is very talented.
Okay.
We can notice Africa with resources, natural resources and human resources and all that, but when it comes to talent, energy, we have it. And Africa has this youth that they quickly transform things,
okay,
quickly adjust to situations, quickly move things to become what it has to be.
Okay.
And you can cite so many examples from slave trade era. The time slave trade was ongoing. Why the target was Africans? It lifted African youth to go and develop their nations, their continents. Why was it so? So, okay, let's bring it back. Assuming we have it in the reverse way, that we have our own people developing our own youth, you should know what we have here in Africa.
Yeah.
There is a lot in our youth, there is a lot in our women, there is a lot in our men, a lot in our children, and a lot in our old men head. A lot of wisdom here in Africa.
Sure.
So I wouldn't say that, fine, we are here at this level of development. I wouldn't blame anybody, but I would blame how it started.
Okay. Okay.
How the whole movie started.
All right.
Yes.
We'll get to that, how it started, right? We want to just speak to the issue that would you want to say that we have skillful people in Africa when it comes to technology without formal education?
Okay, for me, I see that Africa is holistically endowed. Okay, so when it comes to skills, technology-wise, we are getting there, but we are not there yet. All right, probably we'll go into talking about some of the challenges and all that. But for now, I think that we have the skill set now to develop as a nation.
Okay.
Yes, and there are other support systems that we can put in place to make it even better. All right, yeah, so when we get into the details, we'll talk about.
All right, so I mentioned earlier we'll be showing you a couple of videos of these selected young Africans who are making it wonderfully in their small communities, for you to know that we have really got great skills. The first one, which is Asidu Abudu, who is in Takoradi in Ghana, who is doing marvelously well, manufacturing machines, vehicles, and I think you have to see it for yourself. So let's just relax and let's go and see what Asidu Abudu is doing in Takoradi, Inventor 1.
Today we visit a true inventor, Asidu Abudu from Ghana.
Oh, I invent so many things here. I have food finding machine, eating machine, car security gadgets and other things. So I have so many things here.
Asidu started inventing mechanical instruments at a young age. He would dream about extraordinary devices in his sleep, which he would then set about making the following day. Asidu now has an impressive portfolio of technical prototypes. His inventions are designed with the intention of making everyday life a little easier.
And I think about the people. When I have the idea in the dream, you have to sit down to think about the people who are going to use the machine too. So every machine I used to come out, I just study before I used to produce the machine. So like the eating machine that you are talking about, children used to play with the machines, the toys and this thing. So the reason why I come out with the machine, sometimes in some countries, because of the war and this kind of thing, some people just lose their hand and some of them. You see, so if the person don't have hand or there's a problem, the person cannot use his hand to eat. This machine, you just put the food on the table for the person, then you just set the machine there. The machine will feed the person time by time.
Some large-scale companies have taken a keen interest in Asidu's inventions, like a surveillance camera that can be monitored from a cell phone, and a mobile device that enables you to stall your car engine from your cell phone.
Okay, when you have my system in the car gadgets, and somebody snatch your car from you, or you meet armed robbers on the way to some place, you just go for anybody mobile phone or any landline phone, then you point the code on the phone. When you point the code and you send a signal, the engine will stop, the engine of the car. This camera that I'm going to monitor now, the camera is at Tema, and here is Accra. It doesn't mind, no matter how the distance is, it can go anywhere, and within some seconds, you can know what is going on in their life. So if there's anything going on over there, if there's a door open there, and I add another technology to it, that technology gives the owner the signal to the owner that your door is open. The owner can open the camera to see the person who is going over there.
Although Asidu's inventions generate money for his small company, he's not a typical entrepreneur.
Okay, let me put it in this way. I'm an inventor. Even sometimes I don't want to go out. Every time I want to spend all my time with this kind of gadgets because they make me happy. If I'm used to come out with the technology, I feel happy than doing anything in this world. So I'm an inventor. Sometimes you have to sit down. Let's say if you have this design, 1 year later you have to come out with the same design but different type, one which is higher than the one that you did it already. So sometimes you have to go back to study what you have it already, then you modify that technology, and sometimes you have to bring another one. And you know, sometimes you have to go out there to see the problem that people they are facing over there, to come out to your shop to design something for them. So all over my life, I want to spend my life with this kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I'm interested.
Alright, so we're right back on the show on African Student Voice. I believe you watched what Asidu Abudu was doing. You find that this guy had not had any, let me say, tertiary level education. He only got to the technical level, I think, senior high school. But he's doing marvelously well when it comes to creativity in technology. Pamela, what do you think can be done for someone like this? I mean, you can see that his prototypes are not up to the world-class level, but with some little push, it could be better. But let's talk about what higher education can do with people like this.
Yes, thank you. I think higher education can really identify these people. They can pick this as corporate social responsibility programs. Identify these people, give them the final, can I say, the little education they will need to support their innovations and inventions, so that they can market it out there. And probably not everyone can have all the finances to go through tertiary education, but some people are born with talents and skills to invent, to develop. And in mind, the technology is not just about the computer and all that. When you're talking about simple technologies, anything that can make work easier or faster. So you don't really need to be in class before you can put up a tech stuff.
Yeah.
You might probably not be in a tech class or being through a technology institution, but you might probably study business as a course in school. But you have so much ideas, inventions in your app here that you can just put down on paper. What you just need is the how to go about it, what you need to put together to bring it out. The final touches you need to make it marketable, to make people purchase it. That is what you need. So we don't really need that kind of formal education to really develop our nation or our country if we really want to. We have so many talents, as you were saying. This young man in Takrady is doing marvelously well. What he just needs is support. Someone just giving him that little push, giving him that thing. So if our universities can just identify these people, bring them up, bring them to the limelight, make them what they have to be, they'll become our next people developing the Benz, the machines and things, developing the Benz, all
new
these
brands of vehicles.
Yes, new brands of vehicles to compete with the outside market. So we really have to do this, and it boils down to leadership. If the leadership in Africa changes, all these things will change. Where are we driving our resources into? We are just thinking about today. What will just benefit us for today? If we think about our future, fine, you might think that this guy you pumping this money into or pushing all these resources into, you might not end the benefits today, but let me tell you, in the next 20-30 years, you see that it would have transformed not only the community, not only the country, but the continent. Because a lot of people will now travel from places just to come and study from him, learn and take back. And I bet you everything will change. So if our leadership could just drive a little force and energy and resources into these areas, we will get there. And this boils down to another question: how many R&D centers do we have in Africa?
You know what? Let's take the leaders issues. We are really going to be there. We want to talk about the higher education aspect. From that, we'll now move to the leaders, their role. So let me go to Rich. Richmond, let's talk about. He mentioned that he began with the fufu machine. You know, Africa, we do fufu with the cassava, the pound, I think. He began with it many years ago at the age of 15. But something happened. Now that property, that patent, or the ownership of that invention is no more in his hands. It's in somewhere. It's one Chinese man, and he brought out a fully fledged machine that does for fufu, and he plays that patent on it for him. What do you think higher education can do for these people who are doing marvelously well when it comes to invention, but have not got that know-how to get their names on those properties licensed in their name? How can I help them?
Okay, to start with, I would say that I want to congratulate the tertiary in Ghana and Africa. Okay, they've made some step to the extent that they're able to place honorary doctorate degrees on people who have achieved some degree of successes. Okay. It may not necessarily be in their university, but they still go ahead and do it. And so I see no reason why such people, for example, talking about Inventor One, not stepping maybe in the university, but he's able to bring out such innovation. What prevents the university systems to honor such a person, to use their resources, their strength in order to look for support to commercialize such projects? It's all about, she was talking about research centers and all that. These are intentional decisions because we know where we want to get to. And so I believe, as they are already doing, this time we need it not, they shouldn't look for those who have been successful already. They should look for those who have potential and can make something out of Africa become great. And so it should be, I'm talking about a reverse action now. Now, instead of looking for the Amabins and co, those who have accomplished much, they should look for those with serious potentials like our friend in Takrady and then invest in them. I think if we start from there, we'll make a way.
Okay,
sure. Touch on what he was saying. Aside also patents and intellectual properties and all that, we do not have the systems in place. So, okay, for now, if you come up with something, do you know where you go to get a patent? Do you know how to get a so that if you have this product, you know it is yours?
Yeah.
Do you know how do you know the how you go about it? Do you really have any idea about it? Thank you. How many people know about that? That if you really develop something, you need to register it, get it patented in your name. How many people know about that? That's why the Chinese and all those people will come and
I think
pick on all ideas. And a lot of things you see out there, let me tell you, a lot of the ideas are coming from Africa. Probably it starts with pitching of ideas. Come and pitch your idea. They come and just take ideas from Africa and then go and develop it. Patent it, it's in their company name. You know that this is your product deep down within you, but somebody is out there making a lot of money out of it. So if our systems are in place, and if someone is coming out of an institution, and in fact in the university we really direct our students that if you really have this idea, go to this place, go here, do this, do that, you will get this whole thing fully fleshed. Sure. We do not really, our education doesn't really take us there. They just teach us.
Yeah, just to add up, you see, we were discussing earlier that for some of these things we have to combine our strengths. Sure. Okay, we have University of Professional Studies, a business institution. Tech is there. The Ghana Telecom University,
GTUC is there.
Yes, they are all there. And so with this, if you come to UPS, they are likely to teach you about business planning, all this, how to register your business and all that. Okay, and so I see that if the universities are putting their powers together, and then every year, every long vacation, we have students going for internship programs. Okay, tax them. Look for these people. This is what we have learned. Teach them this. If you want your business to do this, these are some of the ways you can do. I was in the North for 2 years. We used to receive some UDS students. They were doing a project on community town and community planning or something like that. They'll come and spend about 2-3 months in the community collecting data information. So one time I called one, I was asking like, what are you guys doing with this information? So they just go and report on it, and that ends it. So every year, all the Form 1s or the level 100s and all, they come and do this and go and report, and you keep the information there. The place has not been developed. That is why you were there to look for some of this. And so if we get all this data, we get all this information, very good resource, and then the university is taking up upon itself that, okay, now to be more relevant to our nations, African as a continent,
sure.
This is what we want to do.
Sure.
Go out there, look for these people with this special potential, these special skills. Let's help them.
Sure.
If you need this is where to get it.
Okay.
Exactly, because when we traveled to, I was here in Ghana for a long time. We went to Zambia, we came back. I was at the airport, I had a flyer where there was all the various tourism sites with the information and all that. Look at where it is. Do you understand?
Sure.
Okay, well, let's end it here. We'll come back.
Sure. So let's go for a quick pause. When we come back, we'll show you our next video for a young boy in Sierra Leone who also had a great idea, powering the community with solar energy and also having a community radio station just by himself. We'll be back.
Now that I'm finally here, I get the opportunity to specialize and understand certain aspects of the continent, like education, urbanization, job creation, and the likes. I'm really excited to be here because I finally get the opportunity to not only get all these things from a theoretical, broad standpoint, but then to narrow all these things down to what exactly needs to be done for the benefits of the continent.
Finding yourself in a diverse community of around 38 countries is quite interesting. I personally love it, I enjoy it. When you read on the logo where they say we do hard things, it's actually true. You're not gonna be disappointed. To me, gradually, I'll say AAU was a dream come true.
Coming to AAU was so unexpected. For me, it was like a dream come true, like something unexpected, but I feel like I'm in the right place.
My name is Calvindo, aka DJ Focus.
Alright. It's the youngest DJ Man Focus.
I'm from Sierra Leone and I love inventing.
Kelvin is extraordinarily talented. He literally goes to trash cans, finds broken electronic parts in the garbage, and makes stuff on his own.
He's taught himself how to do incredibly intricate things with very, very little resources.
In Sierra Leone, we have not too much electricity. Lights will come once in a week, and the rest of the month are dark. So I made my own battery to power lights in people's houses.
Kelvin represents learn by making. He takes a part, looks at it, tries to reverse engineer it.
I made my own FM radio transmitter.
He made his own FM station because he wanted to give voice to the youth. He made his own generator because he needed it.
The generator supply current to the radio station. This is the capacitor, and this is the spark plug.
This trip is his first time leaving his family's home. It's his first time leaving Sierra Leone, and it's tough, but it's an opportunity to create the future that he wants to live in. My name is David Moyne Nasenge. I'm from Sierra Leone. I'm a PhD student at the MIT Media Lab, where we have unlimited creative freedom. I wanted to ensure that young people like Kelvin also had this experience.
David has written visa letters, found places for Kelvin to stay. He's really got invested in him.
Alright, so welcome back. After watching the video, you saw Kelvin Doe and how he transformed things and how he got the help from where we didn't even expect help to come from. So let's come back to the issue. We know that our universities actually haven't done what we expect them to do in terms of identifying these raw talents and trying to give them the formal session of as a formal education to that informal they have, and that is really appalling from them. But let's talk about the issue of private sector. How can we actually raise these young African talents to partner with this our private institutions so that what they are doing can be commercialized on a large scale? How can we do it, Pamela?
Okay, thank you. And as I was saying earlier on, tertiary institutions have a greater role to play in this. In as much as we have the private sectors and all that, the tertiary institutions have a greater role to play. If you talk of development in a nation or in a continent, the tertiary institutions play a greater role. We may not have R&D centers. The tertiary institutions can adopt themselves as the R&D centers. This alone will encourage others to develop a lot of ideas, bring them into innovation and all that. Now, getting to that stage, we need a private sector support as well. Business-wise, how do we sell this product? How do we make it branded to make it look attractive out there? Fine. This also we need a lot of funding, resources, the know-how. The private sectors can also adopt these as their project, corporate social responsibility. Let's all go out there and fish out these people and help them. If one person makes it in Africa, the person makes it for everyone. If I benefit from something, we all benefit from it. Let's not make it like if someone benefits, it sticks into that person's pocket. Let's clear off that mindset. If we take off that mindset, it will help us. Like in terms of private sector, you go out willingly to help a brother come out with an idea, and because a human being that is there. You talk of private sectors as we that we are there. It's our brothers and sisters in the picture. So what are we doing to help them? If you know that you can do something, it's not only in just innovations and all, it cuts across every sector for us to develop. So I think we need all hands on board. We need everybody to just jump into this. You know someone that can do something. Help that person to grow. Don't bring that person down. Let's not act like crabs in a bucket, dragging each other's down. Let's help a brother to get to the top. And when you get to the top, help that brother that took you to the top to also get there. I think we'll make it.
Rich, let's now look at the issue of higher education institutions not actually helping private sector to do what they are doing. So that's what they're saying. That industry is saying that our universities are not the other one, are the reason why we are not actually seeing you. Because if they do their job very well, we also find you. We are looking at how we can benefit from your creativity. But they have not added a premium on you for us to see the good in you. So until the value is added to you from that point, we can't do anything about it. Let's come back to the research. Research, R&D is one of those important that transforms economies.
Yeah.
Singapore, South Korea, in particular, South Korea actually apportioned 4.3% of their revenue into R&D, and now they are the world leaders, innovators. Look at this footprint. What is happening in Africa when it comes to R&D, supporting this young talent to be supported by industry?
Okay, like you said, people set us a vision, directional. And so I believe that for some of these things, we have to be intentional and know where we are going, and then we work towards it. Until they did that, they wouldn't have been where they are. All right?
Sure.
And so I believe that the various universities we have in Africa, okay, we have been complaining. When you give political platforms people, they will talk about some of all these challenges. It's not news to us.
Sure.
We know them, that the education system and the business world, they are at
a very long time, always battling.
And so I see some universities are beginning to do well. SSC, UPSA, and some of these universities, they partner with some of the industries, and then students are able to go and do internships. They learn the hands-on skills and all that. And some of these things, maybe they are taking it too slow for me, all right? Where there should be a serious memorandum of understanding whereby a lot of students can get access to some of these things. It's through these things that we can learn what they really want. What's in the books and what's on the field, there's a disconnect, all right? And so like I was saying earlier that Cosmos Energy, last year, my project work team member, Godfred Nate, I'm sure you might know him.
Yeah, Godfred.
Yes, his team was one of those who went through their pitching stuff. They have an incubation. They are
the Cosmos Innovation Center.
Yes, that's a highly private sector organization.
Sure.
All right, and out of these, they've been able to bring this innovation. They call them AgroPlast. They're able to produce plastic, biodegradable plastic from cassava starch, and now they are looking for support to commercialize and all that. So you see that their team, some of our business students, others are tech students. So earlier I was sharing with you backstage that we shouldn't fear to partner. Africa, one of our big challenges is partnerships. Most of these big organizations out there, big companies, they don't fear partnership. They float shares and all that. Everybody owns part of the company. And so the probability for it to succeed is very high.
Sure.
All right. And so if we do not fear to partner and then we are coming together, I have a business background, you have a technology background, we bring our powers together, what can't we do as African continent? We have the resources, we have the people are there. And so I believe that if the universities pursue these organizations and then they are able to come into a serious partnership, they have the money. The monies are not the problem. It is the ideas and the intention that this is what we want and we are going for it. We will find a way.
Sure. Yes.
Touch on that. Looking at his story, the gentleman we just played it, looking at his story, someone who is a native of that country, but outside.
Yes.
Meaning so there have been a change of mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who is outside, but an African, identified him, took him out there to add some value to him. So let's just look at this. If 100 people out there come and fish out our people and take them out, what are we losing? Gross brain drain.
Exactly.
And to get to a point, we'll have nothing in Africa. All our people will be out there developing other continents. Meanwhile, if we bring all these people back to Africa, Africans will change. But our mindsets, we the people here, the universities even could not approach him to help him. But an individual who is outside in a different university outside could pick him out to help him up there. So I think we need to also change our mindsets. Change the whole mappings. Let's see how best we can help each other to get to the top, as I was saying. If not, every day I believe that, fine, this is what we have seen. What about the others we do not know?
Yeah.
If every day 10 people are taken out of Africa just to help them, add some values to them, to help them develop and bring out ideas and all that, it sticks there.
Yeah.
It does not, the credit will not come to Africa.
Sure.
They'll come back just because they will want to come and see their families and all that, but not to develop Africa. And that's why we'll be where we are and will not grow. But if we start identifying ourselves and start supporting each other, we'll get to the top.
Sure. You know, there are a couple of people out there, that, as you said, endless list of young inventors. We have the likes of Alabi Olushola in Nigeria, who uses potato power. Just potato, and then he connected some cables, and then he has power. And they asked him that, Alabi, do you have any education background in engineering? He said, no, I've not been to school before. But how then can you create it? So I just understand that when negative and positive meet together, there's energy. So I just did that. Like that's just amazing. And we have energy crisis in Nigeria. Generators lined up, you hear the sounds just rolling out. But we have potato as a means of generating power, and as if nobody knows about it. I mean, what are we doing to ourselves? We have the likes of Felix Kwambire in Kenya. We have the likes of Gabriel in Nderetu, in Malawi, and the whole of list of young inventors who have the idea, who can create, and they will die off, unfortunately, just die off of the idea because government or leadership has not spoiled them. But let's talk briefly about leadership. What have you seen in African leadership that you think that if it does not change, we will not be able to actually lift Africa as the next technology hub in the world? What is the attitude that we should change in our leadership?
We only think about what will benefit today and what our family members could get. We don't think about the people. We don't think about the generation. We don't think about the next future. That is it. If we're able to change this mindset and change this attitude, we'll get there. And really, we must invest in our youth. Investing your child to go to school, starting from the nursery, kindergarten, primary, junior high, senior high. Are you going to benefit something? By you are pumping money into that individual, that you are not going to. You are not really seeing that benefit. You only start benefiting when that child starts business. When that child starts bringing out ideas, doing stuff, and earns a lot of money, and then that child will fetch water and bring it to you to take, and you're like, wow, I'm really earning from it. So assuming we are really investing in our youth, ignoring the fact that this money is just going somewhere, invest in R&D centers, think about the future.
Sure.
Let's forget about just today. And I love what Ghana have started, the year of return. And this year, I heard that we are doing another, which is beyond the year of return. I want to acknowledge the president for that. It's good. It's a very bold step, you know, to really bring back our people to Africa to start.
So not only him, we have in Rwanda too. We have same transformation going on over there.
Yes. So we'll really need that, and we have to really change the mindset. It's a canker. Our leaders must change. We must move from that just today leadership and think about the future, think about the generation. Forget about what you earn in your pocket. Forget about the little corruptions and just focus focus on the people.
Sure.
Invest in the people, invest in the youth, and let's allow the youth to pick up the mantle.
Exactly.
Because the technology currently, the old men don't understand the system. As we, the youth, that understand, let's leave the mantle to the youth to handle it. And I believe we will transform.
All right. Yes, Rich, so let's talk about, just briefly, what do you want to find changing in African leadership so that we can have Africa bear the name as the next continent of technology? What should we see different? So, briefly, so we can just
Okay. I was telling you about what we started doing, okay, in the various secondary schools.
Sure.
We should believe in and pull the followers for a long-term vision. Ghana started a 30-year plan. It didn't succeed. We shouldn't relent. We should go back. Singapore has been successful at it. There is no crime in going to learn. All right. This is where I've seen you. You have gotten to. I want to be there. How do I get there? Leadership has to do with influence. If you're unable to influence the nation to pursue or to follow where you want to take them to, tell us this is what we want to get to, and then we follow.
Sure.
You can't be in Singapore and then you don't have an apartment as a young graduate. It is intentional plan. So I think that the leadership of Africa should be intentional about some of these things, and it's a brain work. All right. So we have to begin to teach from the youngsters leadership with integrity, the ability to say no to corruption, the ability to say no to bribery and all those bad attitudes, until they believe and accept it at a younger age. When at our time, I wanted to aspire for SRC president, okay, and then getting into it, you can understand me. Some of these, how the national politicians infiltrate into the student politics. You understand? Sure. And so if we don't take care, the current crop of leadership that we have that we do not like, we are likely to have similar sets when these people are not there. When I say this, I don't mean the ruling government, but I mean current leadership we have in Africa. All right? If they are not there, those of the generation that is coming to take over, if we don't take care, there won't be much difference. And so we should be intentional about training quality leaders who have integrity, those who are able to say no. An example is one guy I saw from Kenya, Lumumba.
Yeah.
Professor Patrice Lumumba.
Sure.
Okay. And then Meguna. I don't know if you've listened to that guy. He's so amazing. It's about integrity. When the environment is so corrupt, how do you stand out and say, no, this is wrong, I will not do it? That's what we are talking about. People, if people are able to say no to wrong practices, it won't take Africa much to develop.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
And so I believe that if some of these things are in place, we'll be there.
Thank you very much.
We also have to, on that, we have to forget about politics and focus on leadership.
Exactly.
Smart.
We really have to focus on leadership and not politics.
We're actually out of time, so we'll just sign out. So I mean, you've heard it all. We've heard it all. I believe you appreciate what has been said. That it's all about the mindset of the African leader to understand that whatever you do today is generational.
Yeah.
Think generational. It's about the continent, not yourself. And I will just leave you with a quote from one of the famous Chinese philosophers called Confucius, and he says that a man who moves who moves mountains, that person began carrying away stones. It means that it's not about you starting to do the big things, but beginning doing the big things in a small way. So if we start investing in our little capacity into our young, talented Africans, believe me, the future is just bright, and we'll just have the sky as a starting point and the limits. Thank you very much for your time for watching African Student Voices. I will ask that you put in more support into the African Student Voices movement and keep following us on social media, subscribe to our channel, and bring in your comments, because this is a movement together to achieve what we want to achieve, the best for the African continent. My name was Ajimo Chudak, and I was joined by Pamela and Richmond on this topic. Take care and see you next time on African Student Voices. Bye.
What done?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to this AAU TV, and we are at the Legon 2020 Gusa Games, and we have the 100-meter second heat winner, the University of Ghana, in the name of Benjamin Azamati. Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Great. That was a great run over there, powerful sprint. Well, no, you have this flex in your running, so flex. How do you do it?
Well, it all happens in training. My coach and I have been working together, so I was taking it out, using my account. So I think that's making me do it in competition.
Great. Do you have any skill, or perhaps anything you want to put past in your sleeves that when you start the race, you have this way of heating up, and then you just reduce the pace, but you still have the front line for yourself? How do you do it?
Well, you try to get to your dry phase, and then when you get to your maximum acceleration, you choose the side of your eyeball to watch if your other opponents are coming. If they are not, you cool down, and then that's all.
Splendid. So should we expect more from Benjamin on in this event? Are you getting the gold on and on and on?
Well, everybody competing wants to win a gold, so I think that is what I want to do for sure.
I have the winner for the men's 110 meters hurdles, and he is in the name of Eric Anobo. Eric, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Tell me, what inspired you? What is your strength for the win today?
Oh, okay. Actually, let's first of all give thanks to Almighty God for such a successful event. Since yes, I have tried as much as possible to work hard so that I can win this year 2020 Gusa Games.
So what is your message, or what's your strength for the next games? There's more to go. What is your strength, or what is your plan for that?
There is more strength, I can say, and all my target is to go at the world stage as well, especially the incoming African Championship at Algeria. I'm looking forward to be part of that competition and the Olympics as well.
Welcome back on AAU TV. We have here Pansa Ayobi Danso from KNUST. He was a competitor for the triple jump, but unfortunately he lost the championship because he had a fracture. I want to talk to you further what really happened. Pansa, what happened?
Thank you both for this opportunity. Actually, the condition over there wasn't good for us because in our school we train on the Titan. Yeah, that's the track. We run through the track before we jump. But when we came here to see that they don't have that thing here, so we jumped on the bare floor. And we've been here for like 1 week now. So during the training, I started developing this pain, at my waist. So sometime my coach told me not to do the jumps, I should just run through. So today I was doing the jumps, I did my first 2 attempts, and I felt that it's coming. I'm developing the pain, the fracture. So like I tried with my third jump, it developed to some extent. So with my fourth jump, I couldn't even jump at all. I just did the hop step and I couldn't jump into the pit. That was when the fracture came, and that was when the first aid people came with a stretch to take me here.
How was your first jump? Was it good according to your win?
Oh, okay. Actually, when I'm doing a jump, my best comes at the latter part. That's the 3rd, 4th, 5th. And so when I started with the jump, it wasn't the best for me, but I was developing the confidence to do the rest of the jumps. But due to the fracture, I couldn't get to where my power comes. Yeah.
Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so Doc, what's your general impression of the games today and that of yesterday?
So far, it has been very good. Performance by the individual athletes has been perfect. The organization, I think, is very good. Yes.
And what of the performance of the athletes of all the schools?
Yes. This year, I think we've seen a much more improved performance, over the last Gusa Games that was held in Cape Coast. Very competitive. All the athletes from all the universities, both men and women, are doing very well. Records are being shattered here. Yes, I think it's great.
So what of the performance of UDS?
Yes, UDS, yes, we've come to win. I think so far we are on track. We are determined to win the athletics and the women's football. Actually, we're prepared to win both the men and women's football. For now, we have had some setbacks with the men's football. We have lost 2 matches. We're not too happy about that. We've gone back to the drawing board. We are preparing. The men could come up. Even if we don't win the gold, but I believe we'll win a medal. It could be silver, it could be bronze. And for the women, we are on track, we are on course. And I believe our women will win the female football trophy. The athletics, you have noticed that our women have already bagged about 5 medals. The men have had 2 medals already. I think it's a very impressive performance.
Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Doc, I want you to tell me, how has the program or Busa 2020 gone for you with all the planning and days of planning and all? How has it gone for you so far?
I think that this is a good beginning. From the next one, I'm sure that those who didn't do very well this time will also put up their best, and I'm sure they're going to get very good results, and it's going to be more competitive. It's all about competition. Everybody wants to impress, win more gold medals, but the sizes are different. The big ones will always lead, but the smaller ones are not being left out, and I think that is very good. And if we keep it up, I'm sure that the time will come, nobody can get up and say, I am the champion. Everybody will be trying to be the champion, and I think it's good for Busa Games.
Are you an institution or individual? Do you intend to organize a memorable event to be archived for future reference? Then look no further than AAU Studios, because it's your best bet with our spacious studio and state-of-the-art media equipment such as 4K Panasonic video cameras, KinoFlow lights, assorted microphones, live streaming equipment, among others. You are sure to get the best of productions. Visit us at Trinity Avenue, East Legon, adjacent the National Accreditation Board, or contact the AAU Studios via the following email addresses: info@aau.org, AAUTV@aau.org, or ransford@aau.org. Alternatively, you can call us on +233 244 736280.
Hey, so this is Dishant from Unica University Common Application. I recommend you to watch AAU television.
AAU TV is the place to be for every person in higher education in Africa. Better be there or be nowhere.
Continuez de regarder la télé et surtout sur le AAU.
Keep watching it and it will change the way you interact with higher education on the continent. AAU, great job.
I want to tell you that AAU television is fantastic. It's educative, it's informative, and it is a must for anybody who is interested in higher education in Africa.
When I was in Accra last year, I did an interview on this TV. It's a very important mouthpiece.
It's a data, it's a bank of all we need for the development of higher education in Africa.
People should make an effort to view it because it discusses very current issues of development across the continent.
I believe that the station will continue to promote the overall development of Africa, particularly in the tertiary education sector.
AAU TV provides a platform and shares a lot of information to a broader audience. So we wish you all the best and please continue serving.
AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa.
Good day, Africa, and welcome to AAU Talks on AAU TV. AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. My name is Irene Dufiade, and I'm going to be your host for today's AAU Talks. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, I would introduce to you my guest for our topic of discussion, mainstreaming ethics in higher education in Africa. Do stay tuned.
Kampala International University, you are the torch that lights above. In you we see a future bright, and by you the nation gaineth from services pure. The emblem that you chose is the message, unique in great and truly the joy. Such a sign, not task insurmountable. Equipped with knowledge, down to earth, we go out of your gates with dignity. And your vision bright and knowledge so above.
Welcome back. In case you just tuned in, this is AAU Talks on AAU TV. My guest for today's discussion is Professor Dr. Obiora Francis Ike, who is the Executive Director of Globe Ethics Switzerland. Thank you, Prof, for joining me here, and we are very privileged to have you here.
My pleasure to all our listeners around the African continent.
Yes, and welcome to our studios here at the Secretariat in Accra. Yeah. So, Prof, we want to know about Globe Ethics before we even talk about ethics in higher education or even in Africa. We want to know a little bit about Globe Ethics. Can you give us in the space of 1 minute what Globe Ethics stands for and what they do?
With joy, globeethics.net is the largest platform for ethics professionals, engaging applied ethics across sectors, ethics applied to economy, to social life, to engineering, to artificial intelligence. What is the role of ethics in the higher education, in university? Does ethics have a place in the world of business?
Right.
We've looked around to discover that globally we are receding in values, and there is growing corruption. There is lack of respect. There are lack of virtues like integrity.
Right.
So the issue of ethics, which is the ability for human beings who think to do the right thing and to do it correctly. This is where ethics comes in as a values-driven subject. Globe Ethics was founded in Geneva in 2004 as, like I said, a platform for people around the world to raise voice and activity and action for ethics. So it has a digital library, the largest digital library globally, with over 8 million documents. It does publications on topics around ethics. It has a network of persons who relate with one another, and of course institutions. We have over 80% of the participants on Globe Ethics networks are institutions of higher learning, educational institutions, universities from virtually every country in the world. And globeethics.net therefore uses this capacity, its ability to push for an agenda currently in its strategy. How can we increase ethics, its knowledge, and its practice in higher education and in the lives of people in the world?
Right. That's very well. And one would think, why do we choose ethics? Why do we think it's important to uphold ethics in what we do, especially in our universities or in any institution or wherever we find ourselves? Why do we think there is a need to make the people aware of ethics and why we should go by that?
Human beings need an orientation.
Right.
We call it compass. It's either you are going north, south, east, or west. Whoever leaves his house, her house, wants to go somewhere, must have a geography. So the navigation of life is ethics.
Right.
When I want to do something, I take decisions. It can be the right, it can be the wrong. Ethics is the compass for human beings to move around in their decisions, in their actions, in their thinking, contributing to the social and common good ethically by doing what is right. As soon as a human being derails, it causes consequences beyond the human person.
Right.
So when you do harm, its consequences are much more. Sometimes they go into generations just for one action.
Right.
So why I must be ethical is because my actions impact on sustainability, on society, on the lives of others, on youth, on development, on structures.
Right.
And going into universities, educational institutions, is where you train the human mind to be nurtured to do things rightly. We have issues in universities, corruption, sexual harassment,
Right.
plagiarism, lack of research ethics, bullying, and there are a lot of vices. And through an ethics orientation, we bring the young students, the teachers, the institutions on a level of impacting more positively on society.
Yeah.
All those who are heads of states, of governments, ministers of government, people who work in finance and industries of business, people who are engineers, those who are parents of the future, most of them in the current situation of the world emerge from institutions of education, especially universities.
Right.
So what we take when we are students is what we give out when we come into the world as professionals.
Right.
Pushing ethics, therefore, as an agenda for action is not only an emergency decision, it is the call of the moment.
So that's very well. So as Globe Ethics, how do you impact, what are some of the methods and the ways that you use to impact ethics into the people? Because I know you said you have a platform, but what are some of the ways? Do you use virtual realities? How do you go about giving ethics or teaching the professionals on ethical issues?
Why we are even global is because we respect diversity.
Right.
There are people who come from Asian countries, from European, from American countries, from Africa, from Australia and Oceania. So, and each group of human beings with their cultural diversity, with their linguistic differences, they have their myth,
Right.
their religions, their cultures, their attitudes, and their principles. So a values-driven global environment is what Globe Ethics tries to moderate. So we allow the voices to be heard, and through those voices that are heard, that's why we are a network beyond boundaries,
Right.
a network on ethics. And that network uses the network, which is the IT platforms.
Right.
It uses the writing, that is the publications. It has an annual international conference, which we call the Globe Ethics Forum.
Great.
It uses its regional programs. We have them in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, in North America, the regional programs. We have over 45 national contacts, countries where there is a Globe Ethics representative. We are here in Ghana today because we have a regional conference happening here in Ghana,
Right.
and what the Globe Ethics representation is carrying out, and we are present to give support. So Globe Ethics Networks is through writing, through publishing,
Right.
through editing, through music, and through even art and artifacts which talk ethics.
Okay. Prof. Ike, want to talk more on the online platform. And first of all, why is it important for an online platform, since what we know in higher education in Africa mostly are traditional buildings where we go sit and then we learn. But why online platforms, and what are some of the things you have on the platform, and how is it going to impact Africa?
Well, technology has taken over.
Right.
Globally, the information technology has come to stay. It has added value to activities for human beings to be more agile, practical, and even be present without being physically present.
Right.
So education has also used these tools of modern communication, the internet, the telematics, the informatics, to move on and to access many more people across the globe.
Right.
There were days earlier when we had to do everything in a physical environment,
Right.
but these days I will be here teaching before a webinar with a webinar or with an IT platform, and I have thousands of students out there anywhere in the world accessing the teaching I am doing. So Globe Ethics, like I said, Globe Ethics Net.
Yeah.
The network is the IT platform that makes sure that 8 million books, which we have on our digital library, is on everybody's Android telephone
Right.
for free. So you can read the books, you can download them automatically without even having to pay anything.
Right.
So we are a free online access institution. For one reason, justice.
Right.
Many people do not have money from some countries of the world, but they need the knowledge which belongs to entire humanity. So we want to access them to such knowledge so that they can read on the telephone, download on their on their PCs, as the case may be, and get used to what is a universal good. The other one is the platform whereby now the Globe Ethics Academy specifically comes out with studies, with subjects, with items that deal with the subject of ethics. Mainstreaming ethics in higher education is important.
Right.
But when you go to a higher education institution, what you find first is the institution, and that is the building, the structures, the ownership, the board, the council, the senate. They are the institution that manage a university. Before then, you even have then the teachers who have to transmit knowledge to their clients who are students. And these are those who become professionals in the future.
Right.
So Globe Ethics Online Platform addresses the integration of ethics in higher education for the institutions. How are the ethical compliances, the quality assurances for my admissions, those I admit in universities? With what qualifications do they come? Because we discover in some cases people are not even qualified, or you crony, nepotism, ethnicism, undermining the system just to make sure that you advance people. So universities must become ethical. And then the rules and regulations of institutions of global standards have to be applied also in all universities, including African universities. And then you think about the content. What do you teach? This is where we pull resources from around the world.
Right.
The pool of experts of globeethics.net do research on law, on administration, on engineering, on artificial intelligence, on natural sciences, on speculative sciences, philosophy, normative ethics, meta-ethics, metaphysics, and they do these subjects and put it out there. So teachers now learn how to be ethical. You don't need to say, I'm studying ethics. No. Ethics is everything about life.
Right.
It's about the decisions you make every day. Now, the books or the substance of the digital library goes to the students to read. And teachers can use those models to encourage their students to know the right things and make a choice. And then the professionals also have their possibility. So the Globe Ethics Net platform is the Globe Ethics Academy.
Right.
And the academy is where then the teachers from around the world engage their students or their participants towards the subjects. I take an example, responsible leadership. I take an example, the webinars, whereby what is ethics, why ethics, how ethics, and people listen to that, even correspond. So the virtual realities, which is something that is great. We are partnering with a university in South Africa, UNISA. It's a digital online university, 400,000 students. We just finished the conference of the ICD in Dublin, the International Council for Distance Education. One university in China has 1.3 million students, one university. And there are many more like that. The future is that working people, professionals don't have all the time to bind themselves in a classroom and attend lectures under a hall. They must now be taught, even at their places of work, in their rooms, and at times when they are available. Because what a university has to achieve is to transmit knowledge and transmit value. And the Globe Ethics platform does exactly this. It is novel, and it is probably a leading platform for this topic, which is so key for African universities, ethics in higher education.
All right. That's very well. We'll go for a short break, and then when we come for a break, we'll talk about your book, what it is about. We'll talk about collaborations, the online platform, and why is it important for higher education in Africa. In case you just tune in, this is AAU Talks on AAU TV. We are talking about mainstreaming ethics in higher education in Africa. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to AAU Talks on AAU TV. If you just joined in, our topic for discussion is mainstreaming ethics in higher education in Africa. You can watch this program on our Facebook page, Association of African Universities, on our YouTube pages, Association of African Universities, and also our online channels. Okay, Prof. So before we went on the break, we were talking about the importance of the online platform. But we know most of our online platforms comes with a little bit of quality issues. So we want to talk about quality assurance when we are talking about online platforms. What measures are put in place that what you are giving out has the quality that when you are online teaching is equal, it's the same, has the same value as you sitting in the classroom?
Well, quality assurance is a very important component today of what we transmit to the young. This is why you have curriculum and accreditations that even accompany that which you offer. At globeethics.net, we are working towards the accreditation of all the ethics courses which we offer through the online platform, so that wherever university you are, you already get a credit for it based on the fact that they are accredited. Besides that, quality assurance has to deal with even the quality of who is offering the subject. A teacher who teaches must be qualified to teach. You may know a singer called Fela Ransom Kuti, who said something like in one of his very casual dances, "Teacher, don't teach me nonsense." You know, and he danced it off also. So quality assurance is about the ethical ingredient, the fact that the subject is accredited, the transmission methods, and also the goal of making sure that international best practices and standards are observed in what the platform and what the content of the teaching content offers, or what we share with the public. In mainstreaming ethics in higher education, we discovered that the massive, the MOOCs, you know, the
massive online open courses.
Exactly, open courses reach a large number of people. These MOOCs are key. They don't remove the physical contacts with the teachers. They reduce it. But definitely, massive online courses reach large numbers of people wherever they are and transmit the knowledge which people are searching for. I don't need to see you to learn what is good. In the past, we lived in villages. The elders and wise people sat around the fireplace. They told us stories. We saw their faces, listened to their stories, touched them physically. Today, every human being has on one telephone much more information than entire humanity ever shared for the past 1,000 years. So we are overflooded with information. Where Globe Ethics comes is to say quality information, quality knowledge, and it is quality assured. Because with that, you also go into your own life, into your own world to progress your own identity and your own needs for your society.
Right. So now let's talk about money, because it is very important when we talk about education and when we even talk about quality education. And so using online platforms, using webinar platforms, and then all of that to disseminate ethics. How expensive is it, and how is it funded? Sometimes you need people to pay, or is there donor funding for people to access these courses that you have? So let's talk about the money part.
Globally, education has been defined as a human right.
Yeah.
The right to access is also a human right.
Right.
People must have knowledge of that which helps their lives. It is the work of governments to make it possible for all their citizens to have access to basic knowledge,
Right.
whether it is universal basic education, whether it is even higher education. We've discovered that, of course, money is not always enough, and people have handicaps. Governments have handicaps and challenges, and they go to some extent. This is where NGOs, foundations, institutions come together to offer support. What Globe Ethics does is to say, money should never stop any human being from having access to ethical knowledge.
Right.
So Globe Ethics started actually with saying, look, how come that people must carry hard books, literature, and materials for people to touch in a world where the digital possibilities make it really a reality that you can read? And you don't even need to touch money, but you touch the knowledge. So Globe Ethics, with its 8 million materials and documents and books, are all open, free, and accessible.
Right.
You only need to go to the website www.globeethics.net. You click, you download even physically the books, and you can read them and have them as your possession. So money will always come when there is something good happening. And Globe Ethics has this possibility by virtue of also the volunteering nature of professionals and friends and colleagues of its network of over 200,000 members around the world, of its regional programs. Globe Ethics has this possibility with little money to achieve much more. We have a publishing house, for example, and publish books. People write PhDs, master's degrees, thesis, but they never have money to publish it. Globe Ethics brings it out for you without long story. If you come from developing countries like many African nations, you virtually is almost like nothing. Like a P, just small thing one has to donate in terms of making the work not only published, but everywhere readable and downloadable. And we have encouraged many university thesis writers to go to the Globe Ethics Publications Network and get their works done. Besides that, I mean, Globe Ethics does not need a large number of staff at its headquarters with a very small number of staff, but it does great things. Linking universities, we form now a consortium of universities. The consortium of universities brings in universities. If you think about the East Africa region, Catholic University of East Africa, Daystar University, St. Paul's University, or go to South Africa, UNISA, and so on. You go to a country like Nigeria, you have the University of Nigeria, you have the Enugu State University of Science and Technology, Godfrey Okoye University, and many others who are members of the consortium. You go to a country like Ghana. Tomorrow I'm having a meeting with Ashesi University here in Ghana, the Ghana University, the GIMPA, and other higher institutions of learning. You go to countries like Senegal, like Germany, and in Cologne, and in Frankfurt University. You go to places like Belgium. So a global network of universities coming together under a consortium and pushing the agenda of ethics in higher education. Reason, through such methods, we are able to share and exchange knowledge. We are able to share and exchange professionals and teachers. We are able to share and exchange students. We are able to share and exchange teaching material and content. We are able to share and exchange values. And people move around and they build friendships beyond walls. So the Globe Ethics Net Consortium, which the platform makes possible, has really created, and we are pushing it further, that ethics in higher education for ranking purposes How do you rank a university?
Exactly.
You rank a university based on probably numbers of students, financial ability, institutional space, accommodation, green campuses, and so on. But we have now contributed to say, no, you have to add, very importantly, the ethical ingredients of a higher education institution. Are there issues of plagiarism? Are there issues of sexual harassment? How is the university research methodologies carried out? Are they ethical enough? The entire topic of artificial intelligence and bringing in ethics into the world of the university. Admissions of students, promotion of teachers. When they talk PhD, pull her down or pull him down. We are saying that ethics must be the opposite. You go to a university not to harm, but to help, to collaborate. So this growing platform for the African Association of Universities is what we want to offer to all vice-chancellors across the African continent. Make ethics part of your component. We do trainings. Global Ethics comes to do trainings for universities where you pay little to nothing in terms of a team of experts come and they train trainers who now stay back in the institution for further training. But once you get the methodologies of training and you also receive something like what we call the integration, the directorate for ethics education within a university. The directorate brings in compliance issues, procurement issues, academic disciplinary issues, what you call, it just collates all of them in such a way that a university has a model to run on.
Right. So before we go, we would want to talk about your book, and it is called Mainstreaming Ethics and Higher Education, Research Ethics in Administration, Finance, Education, Environment, and Law. Can you talk a little bit about it?
I like to touch that book.
Yeah.
When you look at even the cover, you will see the ocean.
Yeah.
And what you find in the ocean is fish.
Fish, yeah.
That is very symbolic. The fish is mainstreamed in water and it lives because it has water.
Yeah.
Ethics is the water for higher education, without which we are not. So mainstreaming ethics in higher education is bringing life into higher education. It has to go into administration, ethical administration, respect, integrity, decency, inclusion, diversity, non-bullying, no abuse of power, finance. We know what happens in the world of education and so on, and where money talks and where corruption starts, including brown envelope mentality. You think about education itself. What is education but to bring the young into their destiny of making right decisions in freedom and using rationality. And they talk about the environment, and that is a key area today in the world where we know that climate change issues, sustainability issues, SDG Agenda 2030 is on, and that's all around the topic of sustainability. And of course, law. Without law, we are almost like non-existent. And this book has been authored by me, but it came from research works of African professors in Kenya. In Kenya, in East Africa. So we do such things. We've done one with Nigerian universities and other institutions of higher learning. Mainstreaming ethics in higher education is the way to go. And
where do we get this book, since we don't want to give it all out for them to go and then look for it and buy it?
This book is free of charge. It is on everybody's telephone who has an Android telephone, like I said, and it is open access, so any person can read every page of this book by just opening the telephone, going to globeethics.net website and clicking the title of the book, downloading the chapters you want, reading it on your telephone, printing it out for yourself, and taking it home. You can also buy it like this from Amazon, from Globe Ethics office if you want. But normally, whether you have money or you don't have money, you have access not only to this book, but to 8 million books, which Globe Ethics has. That's what we think we can contribute to the universe, that when people know then they can act.
Right.
Ignorance is the reason why there is unethical behavior.
Yes, yeah.
People do not know that their corrupt practices has consequences on their children and on generations to come.
Yeah.
Whether it's in political misbehavior or on social and business misbehavior. Because if I want to do good business, it must be ethical business.
Yeah.
If I tell a lie, it continues to be a lie for the next 200 years.
Yeah.
So it's better I tell one truth and it continues to be the truth for the next 200 years. So
Yeah.
my action today impacts society overall. Ethics in higher education is what universities can offer to the African continent.
Okay, so before we go, your last words, and then we bring our program to a close.
What we want to do is to empower the Africa Association of Universities as Globe Ethics. We have already discussed with the Secretary General and his team that we need really to encourage vice chancellors to buy into the agenda, to have trainings conducted for them by Globe Ethics, to have materials read, to establish in their universities a directorate, and to have us come and talk to them and share with them. But we do think that the future lies in an ethically compliant society.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. It has been an interesting conversation on ethics.
Thank you, Irene.
Yeah. In case you just tuned in, we are done with AAU Talks, and we talked about mainstreaming ethics in higher education in Africa. You can still watch it on our pages, Association of African Universities, on YouTube and on Facebook. My name is Irene Dufiade, and I have been your host for this program. Do stay tuned. Thank you.
The Association of African Universities, AAU, is an international non-governmental organization set up by universities in Africa to promote cooperation among themselves and the international academic community.
Mon nom est professeur Étienne Ehouan-Ehilé. Je suis le secrétaire général de l'Association des universités africaines qui est basée à Accra, au Ghana. Je vais vous parler de la création de l'Association des universités africaine. Il faut remonter dans les années 60 pour pouvoir comprendre le processus. Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement.
I am Nodumo Dlamini. I'm the Director of ICT Services and Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities is a network of 400 universities in Africa. The biggest value that the universities benefit from being members of the association is this big platform that allows them to collaborate, allows them to work together, allows them to teach together. Through this platform, a university in North Africa can work with a university in Southern Africa, and also those in East Africa can work with those in West Africa.
Founded November 1967 at a conference in Rabat, Morocco, by heads of African higher education institutions, the association is currently headquartered in Accra, Ghana.
My name is Maxwell Amo-Hoyt. I'm the Director of Finance of the Association of African Universities. The association sustains itself from contributions from member universities and also from other development partners. Some of our development partners include the World Bank, other governmental agencies like the Swedish International Development Agency, UK Department for International Development, and other partners. We also receive a lot of support from other governments, especially the government of Ghana. Other partners include the African Union, which is more or less the parent organization of the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities hosts the Secretariat for the African Union's Continental Education Strategy, And by so doing, we provide coordinating roles for the African Union in helping members achieve their targets.
Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement. Et rappelons-nous que les années 60, la décade 60, a été une décade où la plupart des pays africains ont obtenu leur indépendance ou ont, pris les dispositions pour être indépendants. C'était donc aussi l'année de développement, dans la mesure où tous ces pays indépendants devaient se retrouver de temps en temps pour parler de comment mettre ensemble leurs problèmes et trouver une solution commune à leurs problèmes. Et dans ce contexte-là, l'éducation est une priorité pour eux, surtout l'éducation universitaire. Et sur ce plan-là, les universités aussi se sont organisées grâce à l'UNESCO qui a parrainé plusieurs réunions depuis Madagascar jusqu'au Maroc.
My name is Jonathan Umba. I'm the Director of Research and Academic Planning. The programs and projects that we run at AAU are consistent with our strategic plan, and they are implemented for our higher education stakeholders, namely the higher education institutions in Africa. These programs are implemented in such a way that our stakeholders will get the benefit of membership of our association. And our programs also are aligned with a number of global and international agendas on higher education, including the Continental Education Strategy for Africa and Agenda 2063. So these programs are aligned with a number of international agendas with a view to promoting higher education in Africa.
The AAU is the apex organization and principal forum for consultation, exchange of information, and cooperation among universities in Africa.
I am Professor Nkusa Mahao, Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho in the Kingdom of Lesotho in Southern Africa. There are roughly 77 universities that are affiliated with the AAU in the region. But as you might be aware, there are a lot more universities that are as yet to take the membership of the Association of African Universities. Well, universities that are not members of the AAU are missing quite a lot. First of all, let's appreciate this one point, that the AAU training and capacitating the human resources of the continent.
Les chefs des institutions d'enseignement supérieur